It's all talk on a Monday morning. I'm Kevin Dietz.
I have formally requested assistance from the National Guard to support the limited number of officers that we have in the Minneapolis Police Department. We have around 600 officers in total. Days off have been canceled. Our incredible Minneapolis police officers have been working tirelessly to do their day-to-day work, and simultaneously, they are put in the middle of these chaotic situations. We will not be able to do this on our own, and so we are getting assistance from both mutual aid jurisdictions as well as the request to the governor for the National Guard, and we're appreciative of the assistance.
Another federal immigration shooting in Minneapolis has ignited national outrage and a demand for accountability from state and federal officials. Videos from bystanders appear to contradict official statements showing unarmed I.C.E. nurse Alex Pretti fatally shot amid chaotic protests. For President Obama and Democratic leaders are urging ICE and Border Patrol to withdraw from Minnesota as lawsuits challenge federal overreach. Law enforcement agencies, faith leaders, and crisis experts are emphasizing transparency and communication to rebuild community trust. I should say that Alex Pretti did, in fact, have a weapon on him and 2 magazines. It did not appear from any of the videos that he brandished them or showed them to law enforcement officials before the incident. Joining us now is Roshini Rajkumar, crisis strategist, licensed attorney, and host of the Crisis Files podcast. Good morning.
Good morning, Kevin. As you and the world have seen, we definitely have a crisis in my state.
Yeah, what is the temperature right now? What is the feeling right now as you live so close to it all?
The temperature is pretty darn hot, and I say that with some reservation because I think we all here in Minneapolis area have the ability to bring down the temperature. Our leaders have the ability to help bring the temperature down both here and in their relationships with the federal government and the federal agencies. But what is also very real is we are in the age of the phone cam. The phone cam effect will continue to affect every public event, every current event of note moving forward for the rest of our lives. And as a lawyer, I just want to say it's true, it's real, I'm a human first. I do not like what I'm seeing, so I want to be very open about that. But I also want us all to remember that investigations need to be done. There's nothing I can see from the video I've seen that says to me Alex should be dead right now. He should still be very much alive. But some of the events, I should say, leading up to the video that anybody got on a phone cam are what we don't know fully yet. And that's what I want to really get information about. I want the feds in the state to cooperate on that so that they can very calmly put out that information. And I always want to remind people, you've heard me, Kevin, on your show, what's the law around this? Let's focus on the law. It doesn't take away from the fact that this man is gone. He shouldn't be gone. I, though, would go back in time and say, I also wish if he was going to protest, he didn't have a loaded gun with him.
Let's look at where this really started, and that's the woman is blowing the whistle at these agents, repeatedly blowing this whistle. Eventually, they push her down, and that's when Alex Pretti gets involved trying to help her up. They then wrestle him down to the ground, and we all know what happened there. Can those protesters be blowing those whistles at ICE officers legally? Is that part of a peaceful protest?
You know, it would seem it's not part of a peaceful protest, but this is one of those things that the actual tool of a whistle, to my knowledge, hasn't necessarily been litigated. I would have to look up the case law. Protesters have the right to peacefully protest, and you would think a whistle or a bullhorn isn't the same as a weapon. But what ends up happening is the proximity to which some of the protesters are to these officials, to these officers, seems to me to violate those time and space and distance, time, place, and manner we've talked about on your show, laws. So the manner might not be illegal, but the sort of place where you are in proximity is something that I'd like to see what the courts say about that, because if you're trying to do your job hosting your show and I come into your studio and start blowing whistles and things, I mean, am I committing a crime? Probably not, but that's absolutely uncalled for.
Well,
So in here, these are much more dangerous operations even than you doing your show.
Yeah, well, because I think this incident doesn't happen if that doesn't happen. I don't know why these ICE officers felt the need to go push that woman, other than the fact that she was blowing that whistle at them. And I think these officers need to have some real clear instructions on what they should be avoiding and when they should be engaging. And I think that's a real issue here. I think it's time for Donald Trump to address the nation and say, look, we're going after criminal migrants only, or we're going after anyone who's here illegal. He needs to explain what in the world he's doing, because there is a disconnect, and it's time for that to happen.
Right. I'll tell you really in short order what I'd like to see. I'd like for local law enforcement to be able to actually do law enforcement around the ICE officers, because if local law enforcement were doing its actual job or being allowed to do its actual job, then they would have set up a perimeter, or they would be keeping the peace. They wouldn't have masks on, things like that, because that's just natural. Local law enforcement doesn't tend to like to wear masks. Now, ICE officers, it's a mixed thing. We don't want to see them with masks. I mean, let's put the cold aside. Sometimes they're just covering their face. It's freezing here. But sometimes they're wearing those because of escalating violence that's happened over the last several years against them. So if local law enforcement could do its job, if our mayor and governor would allow local law enforcement to do its job, perhaps there would never be someone so close to an ICE officer blowing a whistle that then the ICE officer would have to push away. Again, pushing away looks bad, not a good thing, not recommending it, but repeatedly. I mean, I can tell you all the times I've been driving around and I hear the whistles or I hear the horns. I mean, that would annoy me if I had to listen just to do my work in my regular job. So those are the kinds of things. The other is I would love for Pam Bondi to just say, we're going to take a pause, or Secretary Noem, we're going to take a pause in Minneapolis. We're going to take a pause. We're going to assess and give everybody some breathing room. That's what I would like to see. And I'd like to see that even before the president necessarily addresses the nation, because I don't want the president addressing the nation without a serious game plan ready to go.
They all have to be on the same page, and they have to express it clearly. Roshini Rajkumar, crisis strategist, attorney, and host of the Crisis Files podcast. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kevin.